point. The only thing is, it would be really nice if your difference maker, Byron Buxton, could stay healthy because that changes. Max Kepler, listen, Max Kepler is a hell of a player, okay? And he can, I don't think he's great there, but he can certainly play center field. It's not embarrassing to put him out there. But my goodness, if you talk about, if you take one guy off each team, I think there's no question that one of the top, 2 guys or so, because if Cruz does not play, it makes a difference here as well. But just as far as what he brings at the plate, on the bases, in the field, when Byron Buxton's not playing, it's a major, major difference.
Well, they're 12-17 without him.
Yeah.
They're 12-17 when he doesn't play. And 3 of those 12 wins came this past weekend.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
I was trying to figure out, Manny, because we talked a lot about that, you and I. Like, we were sitting here in the studio, actually. We were watching on the TCL TV up here when Buxton crashed into the wall and kind of just like lowered his shoulder. And it wasn't one of those aggressive crashes. It wasn't one of those, I'm going to pull a ball back from the other side of the center field wall. It was, didn't make the play on a tough gap shot, and just sort of like his momentum carried him into the wall. So, but we were sitting here scratching our heads saying like, man, he's got to protect himself more than this. He has to. And you talk about difference makers, Judd. I was trying to figure out when Manny ran that stat by me that they were what at the time 9-17 without Buxton.
Without Buxton, yep.
That was before this weekend's sweep of the KC Royals. But I tried to figure out, and I don't know that there's an answer. It's just maybe one of those unanswerable questions. Did his absences just happen to line up with a time the Twins weren't playing good baseball, and now the stats are kind of skewed? Do you know what I mean?
I've thought about that too.
Yeah, like, oh, the team's 0-6 without their starting quarterback. It's like, well, yeah, but the defense was also playing like crap for that 6 weeks, so take that with a grain of salt.
Answer, it's no.
Well, no,
I can tell you this, it's no.
Because the Twins went through a lull.
Last game, Yankee series. Jake Cave turned center field into a complete gong show. God bless him. I'm sure he's a good guy.
Listen, I'm not trying to say.
No, but I'm saying that costs you.
I'm not trying to say that Byron Buxton is replaceable. He's not. It's not even close.
But what I'm saying is the answer to your question is no, which makes the problem this. He can't stay healthy. And by the way, too, this now might be a conversation. Very simple. Forget crashing into fences. Forget the whole thing. He can't stay healthy. He got hit on the wrist. He's out. That's IL trip number 1. He comes in on a ball and dives for it and somehow snaps his neck violently. He has a concussion. IL stint 2.
Well, wasn't last year?
IL stint 3 is going into a wall, which he did in Kansas City. But I believe when he did that in early April, he only missed a game or 2.
Well, last year, what was the deal last year? He fouled a ball off his foot, right?
Broke his big toe.
Broke his big toe.
That's what I'm saying, though. Yeah. But this might not even – I'm not assessing blame here at all.
Because he's not trying to get injured.
Well, yeah, and and if everything – listen, I am the first person that said quit crashing into walls. You don't need to. So I don't like that, but the scope of the conversation now has to extend to can he just not stay healthy? And then the scope of the
just injury prone.
And then the scope, of course, has to go to a very dangerous place, which is as much of a difference as he makes. Can you give this guy a huge payday at any point in time, knowing what we know now? And that's the scary thing, because the answer right now is no.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Byron Buxton's payday right now. I'm worried about the Atlanta Braves. I mean, it's as simple as that for me. My question is, can they win? I know you do. I do too. I've been accused of that. Can you hold off the Indians? Can you punch your ticket to October? Can you host games in the postseason at Target Field without Byron Buxton getting significant run? And I think that the answer is yes, but it's definitely a harder road to hoe.
How can you say that before you see the Twins play a series of good teams? Like the Kansas City Royals mean nothing. You should beat them.
I don't think they mean nothing.
Okay. I could put Stella in center field and we could beat them. All right? The dog could play center field against
I know
them.
you love that joke, but they won a 2-run game and a 3-run game. No, you can't.
Jake
Cave is better than Stella the dog.
But the problem is you played the Yankees, and what happened? And that entire Yankee series
was a close series.
But it's indicative of what you need.
They could have won.
But they could have, but they didn't.
One bounce here or there, that's sports, man.
No.
They could have won that Yankee series.
It's pitching. Their pitching cost them, and Jake Cave in center field in Game 3 of that series cost them dearly.
Sure.
Those are, if you're Falvey, you are acutely aware of all of that. And my point is, we can't pass any judgment on where this team is going to be when they leave town after Sunday's game until we see them against these type of teams.
Sure.
Kansas
That's
City,
fair.
Kansas City is not the test. You should beat them, and you did. And you're beating a lot of teams. Listen, the American League Central has 3 teams that are probably vying right now for AAA status. And you're beating those teams, and you should, and that's great. And the Cleveland Indians and Twins are taking advantage. But I need to see them in a prolonged period now against good teams, and most importantly, without Buxton. Because your reality is, as you just said, Derek, there's a good chance he's out for August.
It's possible.
There's a good chance it's longer. This type of thing, I just don't know.
One encouraging thing is it's a non-throwing shoulder, right? But how often are you dealing with the term subluxation?
Yeah, exactly.
In Major League Baseball
and you got
season?
A hit, which takes both shoulders, and there's a lot of
and for a right-handed hitter, that's your lead shoulder. Like,
bingo.
This is going to be a problematic injury for Byron Buxton, and add it to the list. I'm just curious to see how the Twins perform without their star center fielder, because even through the times this year where he wasn't starring at the plate, I mean, there was the electricity 9 times a game when he'd go stand out in center field. And it changes the dynamic of the Twins. It just does. If you're Martin Perez, in fact, I thought about doing this yesterday. It was a lighter clubhouse pregame, but I thought about just going around and seeing if I could get people to discuss that. Now, I didn't end up doing this, but it's a fun idea for a story. Free idea, writers that are listening to this. Go around and ask pitchers. Yep. I don't know if they want to put their name on it. I don't know. That's up to you if you've got the relationship to get this kind of answer and this kind of honesty to ask Martin Perez, do you physically feel different when you're standing on the mound and that guy standing in center field? Michael Pineda, who's on the injured list now, probably miss a start, maybe 2. It doesn't sound like he'll be gone for very long. But, hey, Big Mike, do you feel different when 25 standing out there in the middle of the outfield?
Ask Kepler that.
I guarantee you Max Kepler feels different.
Kepler would tell you.
And he won't tell you, but I can tell you.
I've seen quotes. I've seen quotes. He basically says, when I play right field and Byron plays center, we're phenomenal. We're talking about, I mean, how often do we say this about fielders in baseball, Derek? We're talking about what we call in football a difference maker. He makes a complete difference.
Impact player.
Yes, he is a football player on the baseball field. Unfortunately, it seems like he plays baseball like football and therefore is hurt a lot.
He's Alvin Kamara for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. He is.
He's not the numbers. I mean, Alvin Kamara will put up some numbers, but he doesn't always have to fill the stat sheet to have an impact.
Sure.
He can just Alvin Kamara helps Drew Brees on third down, on 3rd and 7.
He is a complete shutdown corner.
Okay, yeah.
Because you don't throw at him.
Yep.
Like you can say, well, Byron Buxton didn't, because he made 3 catches look simple that most guys just can't make. I'm praising him. I think there'd be nothing better than to sit in this studio in the coming weeks and have a conversation about what should the contract be. He's one of the. This is as much fun as I've had watching a baseball player. Like, if you like baseball, and I know we like home runs and stuff, but if you just like the sport, I mean, who else hits a line shot down the left field line and you think, oh, this could be triple?
You're right.
Every 3 bags.
And so, no, I would love nothing more. There are certainly players on this team that I have preconceived notions about that aren't positive. But the Buxton thing to me is extremely frustrating because, one, I firmly believe he wants to be as great as possible. He's not trying to get hurt. What's sad about this is he doesn't seem to be able to avoid getting hurt. And if it was all crashing into fences, I think we could just safely say, okay, if you just stop that. But you can't. And how do you – I go back to the Cleveland play because how do you tell him just let the ball fall in? I mean, how many guys dive for baseballs? It's done constantly. The collisions with the fence, I wouldn't necessarily call constant, but diving for baseballs, outfielders do that constantly.
Yeah,
and so now can you say, okay, if we're up by 3 and a ball is pull up and don't dive. That's what's scary about this. I have no answers. So
I wonder too if all these stints on the IL or the DL in years past, if that has, I mean, he certainly has become a better hitter than what he was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. and even last year when it was a total disaster. But I wonder if just these constant trips on the IL are just really holding him back from reaching his full potential as an offensive player.
There's no question in my mind that missing 3 weeks, and you go back to his minor league career, he crashes into a teammate diving for a ball and misses a good portion of the season as a 22-year-old or whatever. I'm just making up a number, but I think he was 21, 22. Meanwhile, your contemporaries, the people who then stand in center field, get 400 plate appearances to learn against tighter breaking balls and bigger velocity and fastballs at your eyes that you think you can hit out and you probably shouldn't swing at.
Yeah.
Byron Buxton getting 450 plate appearances of those as a 21-year-old would have been invaluable.
Huge.
And he didn't. And that continues here to Manny's point. That is the concern. I mean, aside from just missing him on a game-to-game basis, or as I like to think about a baseball season, a series-to-series basis, sweeping the Braves, taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves at home is going to be more difficult without Byron Buxton standing in center field, point blank.
Yeah, because if this guy becomes like a 290 hitter, my God.
Okay,
but
here is the coming problem too that I see because of the fact that he plays the sport like football. Look at what's going wrong here. You know, he gets hit on the wrist. That's a risk. But then he gets a concussion, and now he's at least 2. And he played football in high school, so he's probably had more than 2 of those. Now it's a shoulder problem. Byron Buxton's greatest gift is his body.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not going to say in 5 years, if he has been slowed a lot, well, yeah, but I mean, look at him at the plate. Okay, but the gifts are then gone. Like the gifts that make him so special and such a talent and different than your ordinary baseball player is that body. It's that speed. It's that ability to throw the baseball. So the scary thing here is he almost has to be looked at like a football player in a clock is ticking here. You know, Nelson Cruz at that age could be like, hey, the clock's ticking. That's cool. I could still be great when I'm 39, which he is. But Byron Buxton, I'm not saying he can't have a long career, but the gifts that we talk about right now are slowly but surely going to disintegrate, especially if the injuries keep up.
How fast is he going to be when he's 30, 31 years old?
And that's what Phil has said, and Phil's exactly right. Your speed just goes.
Yeah, games that are predicated on speed, they tend to decline earlier. But you'd say the same for power, and Nelson Cruz bucking that trend.
Sure. Maybe I'm not saying he's going to have a short career. I am saying it feels like the things that we are discussing right now that make him a special player, it's going to be hard to keep those up.
Here's the tough thing as an objective observer of this team, and I'll just ask you point blank the question, Judd. When you hear that Buxton's going back on the IL and he's going to miss some time, and the Twins are going to have a tougher time now, frankly, against Atlanta and against Cleveland, although let's not look too far ahead, one series at a time.
Well, let's take it 7 games. Come on.
Beat the Braves.
Come on, take it 7.
It's like when you see the news that this could be a little bit, this isn't your standard 2-day, give him a blow and he'll be back, no injured list required. It's almost like you can't help but pull for the guy or feel for him at least, despite, not actively rooting for the team and all of that stuff. You see that and you're just like, again?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
1,000%.
That's where I'm at with this.
I feel empathy for him.
Yeah.
No. This is not, I'm saying, nothing I'm saying is criticizing him.
Sure.
It's the reality. And if there was something about him being hurt that was just a common denominator every single time, I think you could very safely say, knock that off. But it's not. He can't stay healthy.
If he was diving into head first into first base, you'd be like,
knock that off.
Probably cool it on that.
But if you look at the wide array of ways that he has gotten hurt during the course of his big league / professional baseball career, no, I feel bad for him. And I feel bad because you talk to him and there is, Sano frustrates you because at times you're like, how much does he really want this? There's no question. And with Byron, every time you talk to him or see him, he wants it really bad. And it's at times been slow to come. And I get that. But when a guy, in my mind, works as hard as he has, this is not a criticism. This is as close as I can come to being empathetic for an athlete. And selfishly, I want to see it.
That's right.
Selfishly, because you know what? if Sano reaches his zenith, all right, he's going to hit long home runs, and boy, that's cool. But guess what? A lot of guys can do that. Miguel Sano could retire tomorrow, and you could find a guy that could do. But you guys, look at Buxton's skill set. How many guys can just step in and that we get to see on a daily basis in his career do the things he does in baseball?
Zero. I mean, here in this
I
town.
mean, we could, right. And we could probably name on
and we've been lucky.
two hands guys who we think compare over the history of baseball.
Sure.
Right? Two hands?
Probably two, yeah.
That they can do those things athletically. So no, this is also selfish. I want to see this.
That's right. The way that the Twins can overcome it is by pitching better. That'll help.
Yeah.
It's by continuing to bust out the bats, because there have been times this year where Buxton's been great with the stick and other times where it's just been like, okay, and he's there for his glove and his speed. But I think they can overcome his loss offensively. I still think this is one of the best offenses in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Pitching wise, it's a little tougher to beat Kyle Gibson when Byron's not there.
Yes.
It's a little tougher when your double in the gap doesn't turn into an out.
Yes.
And now instead of nobody on, 2 outs against the middle of the order, you've got 1 out
and a runner at second.
Dude standing on second base and facing Jose Altuve.
And the problem is, who else can you find or get who's going to come close to making the catches that Byron makes? And by the way, he makes them look often routine. And the answer is nobody.
Yeah. And his presence allows you to slide Kepler down the difficulty defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Cave is a nice player, had a good year last year, and I don't think anyone would be offended if I said he's not Byron Buxton. So it's a chain reaction. Marwin Gonzalez suddenly needs to stand out in left field a lot of times with an outfield glove, and he's fine out there. But Marwin Gonzalez's value to me is left field, third base, first base, shortstop when needed, second base. Move him around. He's a puzzle piece. Right now, he's not allowed to be a puzzle piece because he's your starting right fielder some days.
Absolutely.
So it's a chain reaction with Buxton's absence that I think hurts the Twins in total.
Buxton's presence in the 9 spot for them actually, I think, scares opponents and makes them have to, in some ways, game plan for the Twins.
Sure.
Like you know that the Twins lineup is currently constructed is going to come up and hit home runs. You just know it. And that's fine. But a lot of teams do that. Buxton shifts that from you've got power and this factor at the 9 spot who is a pain in the rear end constant. Seriously, if he gets on base, he is a nightmare.
The pitcher is terrified.
Yes, the pitcher doesn't know what he is going to do, and the pitcher knows that if the guy doubles, that Byron's going to score from first base. I mean, think about all of the different permeations that are created by Byron Buxton's presence on base if he even walks.
Changes the game.